Hello, everybody. And just like that, season 2, episode 3 aired. And here we are. Warning, spoiler alerts. We're going to talk together about episode 3 of And Just Like That, season 2. This video is being filmed live in front of a live virtual audience. Hello to my chat. Join me. I live stream several times a week and we discuss fun series and fun shows like this one together. Hi, everybody in the chat. So you are warned, spoilers up ahead starting now. So I do have my little list. I went through the entire episode several times just to be very clear on the timing, the chronology of everything. So this was a fun episode, you guys. Now I know And Just Like That gets quite a bit of negativity and people love to hate watch it. But it's so kind of funny. It's almost like a trend for people to hate watch it and then to make their videos and to talk like really nasty stuff about it and how bad was Che, how bad was Cynthia Nixon's acting, Charlotte was terrible, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, girl, loosen up. This is such a fun show. Why? Why does everybody wish this show to go away, but secretly everybody wants it to stay? A little rhyme, what a slay. Careful what you wish for, people. Because it's not like we got a bunch of really cool, fun shows out there. You know what I mean? Let this be. Listen, it got a ton of great views the first season. So, of course, they renewed it for season 2. Season 2 is doing great so far, I believe. So, listen, I'm hoping that they're going to do a season 3. People are already saying they're going to cancel it after season 2. Samantha's going to be the last thing that pops up, the cameo that, Samantha Jones, Kim Cattrall is going to do a phone call, blah, blah, blah. We talked about that in a separate video and how that's going to happen either in episode 10 or 11. Yes, there's going to be 11 episodes this season. And that's going to be the closing act. Then And Just Like That is over forever. I'm like, no, let it stay. Bring Kim Cattrall back in. Let them make amends. Let them all make peace. Bring the girls together. I love this show. It brings me peace and joy to watch it. Come on. And yes, there are cringy moments in the show. So what? I mean, heck, I spend it every day of my life has more cringy moments than an episode of And Just Like That. I cringe at myself early in the morning when I look in the mirror, for crying out loud. I'm like, give me a break. If you can't handle a cringe moment, then you're not human. I'm sorry. Bottom line. But anyway, we digress and we're back to these lovely people. So we got Lisette sees Carrie and invites her to her jewelry for Bulgari event. Lisette in season 1 moved in Carrie's building. She lives in the apartment underneath Carrie's. So they became friends in season 1. Lisette is a 20-year-old socialite and she's a jewelry designer in New York. And, Carrie kind of has motherly feelings towards her. Carrie kind of sees her as like a younger version of herself, like the new generation of New York women in their 20s. So Carrie cares for Lisette from time to time. And so Lisette is back for season 2. And she meets Carrie walking down the street and says, Carrie, Carrie, Carrie. And this entire episode, was it sponsored by Bergdorf Goodman's or what? Because Lisette is wearing one of those vintage varsity Bergdorf Goodman jackets. It was so bizarre. But anyway, and then we're going to see Carrie later on in the episode shop until she drops at Bergdorf Goodman's for a ton of shoes. But that's all coming later. And we see the shopping bags and it's all a huge promotional thing. But whatever, we digress. So she invites her for the opening of her collaboration with Bulgari. So Lisette was apparently invited by Bulgari to design some jewelry for them. And so she's in the middle of town building up these little weird futuristic looking Epcot Center like tents in which she's going to showcase the jewelry. It's going to be a party, drinks and all included. She says, Carrie, will you come? Will you come? Carrie says, of course I will come. Scene after that, Seema is at... This is Seema. Lovely lady. Lisette, by the way, is not on this table. I always say this table looks like the Last Supper. Who's Jesus here? Who's Judas? I don't know. Maybe everybody's everybody. But Lisette is not at the table. I guess as a character, she's not important enough to be on the table. But anyway, Seema is here. Seema is exiting her apartment building with her Birkin. Yes, the Birkin is back, baby. Hermes is in full swing back in And Just Like That. And I got to say, and just like that, I felt home again. Oh, it felt so good. And of course, I see Seema exiting her apartment building with the Birkin, crook of her arm. It's an ostrich version of a Birkin in kind of a gold sandy color, brown gold color. And of course, the first thought that runs through my mind, because we've seen Sarah Jessica Parker give an interview for Vogue a year or two ago, saying that one of the Birkins used in one of the episodes in the OG Sex and the City that Carrie wore, not the episode where Samantha and Lucy Liu, she was doing PR and she wanted a Birkin for her but bought it for herself. Not that episode. We're talking about a random episode where Carrie wore a Birkin. Sarah Jessica Parker revealed to us that that Birkin was indeed fake. So, of course, since then, we're doubting everything. So Seema appears with the Birkin at the crook of her arm, and I immediately think, is it fake? This must be a fake. It's a fake. Because 1 second later, a dude rushes by past Seema and snatches the Birkin, steals it, and runs off. And Seema is dressed in Fendi with Gucci shoes. She has like a Fendi muumuu on that flows as she's running down the street, and it's so elegant. Her little Fendi dress is fabulous, darling. The stylist said, oh, we wanted her to wear something that flows beautifully as she's running after her Birkin. I'm like, wow, that is so fashion. Victim, I live it. I'm living for it. Live and ferret to like style the actress or style the character in a dress that will look good as she's running down the street after a thief who stole her Birkin. That's what we live for. Sorry, that's what we live for. So anyway, so she rushed off. The bag disappeared. She's shook. The way the bag was folded under the guy's arm and how it kind of bent, I was like, oh my God, they're really mistreating this Birkin. It must be a fake, because if it were a real one, nobody would allow them to treat a Birkin that way. Nobody treats baby nobody puts baby in the corner. A little Dirty Dancing reference there. So, and then, of course, she then talks about it to Carrie. She complains to Carrie and says, I bought the Birkin so long ago. There wasn't even a wait list back then when I bought this Birkin. So it's cute that they know what they're talking about, that they're referencing like, the Birkin is so old and it's so important to me. Such a symbolic thing to have this Birkin. I bought it when there was even no waiting list. Still, like, cute. Then we cut to Lisa Wexley and Charlotte at school, where they met at school in season 1, the school where their kids go to, like a high school. And they're at a school meeting. There was an incident at school. Some students created a MILF list. And Charlotte and Lisa are dying ferret. They're dying to know who made it onto the MILF list. You know what MILF stands for. I'm not going to say it here because we are on the tubes, but MILF. Okay? So, of course, they want to get their hands on this list. But the principal is saying, it has come to our attention, dear parents, that one of our male students created a MILF list, and this is unacceptable. Punishments will be issued. But who made it on the list? We'll find out later. Carrie records an audio book for her book entitled Loved and Lost. The title is quite cringe. Loved and Lost. I mean, okay, we'll go. So it's an autobiographical book, and she's talking about her life, and she's talking about her life with Mr. Big / John. And of course, John passes away in season 1, episode 1. And so there's one chapter of her book, and that is chapter 3, where she describes exactly how it went down. How she went to the opera, came back, to a concerto. And they tell her, diction, pronounce the T's, not concerto, concerto. So anyway, they're telling her to do the T's, enunciate the T's, and she comes back from the concerto, and Mr. Big is, dying on the floor in the bathroom. So she's describing that in that particular chapter of the book, but of course now she has to read it out loud for the audiobook. And emotions run deep, and of course she cannot read that chapter. She starts reading it, she starts crying. She's trying to do everything to not have to read that chapter out loud again. It's just too painful for her. And then there's like this weird incident of one of the assistants coming in, helping her out, and he has a mask on. I guess he has COVID. That's kind of the running gag throughout this entire episode, is like, who's going to get COVID, who isn't. And the guy apparently has 2 masks on to not pass on COVID to anybody, but he has bad breath. And then they say, oh, even through his mask, like we can smell the bad breath. That's, I'm like, why make that joke? That was very rude towards him. I thought that was very, they could have left that joke out, but whatever. So anyway, they're worried that Carrie's too sad to record this, so they give her more days. They say, you know what, we're going to give you 5 days to record the book. Oh, Debbie, you thought it was armpits? He had stinky armpits in the chat, Debbie's saying. Yes, armpits? Stinky armpits? Okay, well, it doesn't even matter. So, okay, armpits. Who cares? Armpits, breath, either way, unnecessary, really. Now we cut to the next scene. Miranda and Che Diaz are rehearsing Che's lines for the Che Pasa show in LA at home, in their Los Angeles home, while they're having breakfast. And the line reads something like this. So Tony Danza is acting as Che's dad, and Tony Danza has to say to Che, you want to be non-binary, then be non-binary. You know, I just don't want to lose my little cannoli girl. I remember you as a girl, you know, yada, yada. Che says being non-binary is not a sad thing, so Che doesn't want to cry in the scene. Miranda says, but the script says Che is crying and keeps on crying and tries to talk through the tears. And Che says, yeah, but that's not me. There's nothing wrong with being non-binary. Why do I have to act as if it's this dramatic thing? I really enjoy the commentary here, or the commentary on how the show is reflecting and the writers are reflecting on a lot of the criticism that the character of Che has received in season 1. And so I love how they're building up the scene of where Che has to deal with the situation within the show as a reflection of how Sarah Ramirez has to deal with this outside of the show because of all the criticism coming from a lot of the old school fans of the show from back in the day. I found that very clever. And people are also criticizing how Cynthia Nixon, by the way, this is Che, and this is Cynthia Nixon, okay? So this is Sarah Ramirez, this is Cynthia Nixon as Miranda Hobbs. And people are criticizing Cynthia for like, oh, you don't know how to act, you don't know how to act, blah, 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 terrible at acting. I'm rewatching the entire Sex and the City show these days, like from season 1 all the way to season 6. Cynthia Nixon was always the comedian. She always had the ditzy puns, the silly punchlines, the ridiculous, embarrassing, cringy lines. She always made a fool of herself. She's the same, you guys. She's not acting any worse or any better. She is Miranda that we know. You know, people say like, oh, she's acting like she's like a little bit, you know, you can't say the word, right? But, you know, that she's a little bit off. Like, oh, you know, oh, let me do a tattoo, you know, overly excited about everything. She was like that always. Do you remember when they went to Los Angeles? Coincidentally, I just watched that episode, like, because they're, you know, Miranda is in LA with Che. But in the OG series, Miranda, Samantha, and Carrie went to Los Angeles because they wanted to turn one of Carrie's books into a movie, or they were negotiating about it. And Matthew McConaughey was in that episode, right? And Miranda, throughout that entire episode, this is season 3, you guys. This is early on in the show. She was already like all ditzy, you know. She was all like, oh my God, it's all about sex here. It's all about sex. Like I'm a lawyer and nobody looks at me. And then like towards the end of the episode, she gets so horny and excited and she's riding that bull. And then like her shirt opens up. And you have her, you know, the cleavage shows and she's super excited that she's finally feeling her oats and being sexy and ditzy. That's Miranda. She's always been like that, you guys. It hasn't changed. Stop criticizing her. Like, they're doing a great job writing her character. She's hilarious. Anyway, so now Che says there's nothing wrong with being non-binary. It's not a sad thing, but Hollywood is making it sad. And then Che, not the character in the hold on, you guys, Che starts crying. But for real, because like Che's just so frustrated. They want to change their costume. They want to change their appearance. They want to change their hair. They want to change. It's like Hollywood is taking over Che's life and trying to rewrite Che's life. And we're going to see that later when we go into the show, the filming of the show, when Che is talking to Tony Danza, and we have the writer slash showrunner who's also non-binary or lesbian. I think non-binary or transgender. I'm not so sure about that character with the blue hair. They are the showrunner. They know, and the camera pans into the showrunner knowing every line by heart because they wrote it, feeling every line as if it were their story. And in fact, in the last episode, that showrunner tried to turn Che into them, saying, oh, you should also paint your hair blue like mine. Dress like me. Wear a suit like me. And Che's like, I'm not you. I'm me. So Che's having a hard time with Hollywood taking over their identity for the sake of a sale and for the sake of their own ego. Very, very cleverly written. You gotta look at the details. The camera will never pan on a detail if there's not a reason to do so. There's a reason why the camera pans on the showrunner, lip syncing the entire conversation, knowing it by heart, the entire script that Che is supposed to say to Tony Danza. There's a reason why the camera pans in on that. Notice those details. So it's a commentary on how everybody, and even in Just Like That, is making fun of them, of Che. Cut to Dr. Naya interviewed by Lisa. Lisa thanks Charlotte for the opportunity to interview Naya. The mic technician flirts with Naya. A little microphone moment. Microphone falls in there. The microphone technician, like muscly dude, comes by and says, hey lady, can I help you? And she like, can you ever? So he's like kind of fiddling diddling in her shirt, and she's like, should we go out on a date first before you do that? And he's like, were you serious about the date? Because, honey, I would take you out on a date. So she has the hots for him, and then she asks Lisa, like, we'll go. And Lisa's like, oh, he's hot. Yeah, go for it. Give him your number. We're late to lunch with the girls. We're going to meet up, with Carrie and everybody, all the other girls, with Charlotte. So we're late for lunch. The interview's over. Give him your number and let's head out. Naya gives him the number. Lunch with the old girls and the new girls. Carrie says to Charlotte it's hard to read her book for the audiobook. Charlotte is proud of Carrie for the way that Carrie has been moving on from the loss of Mr. Big. The new girls come. So this is Naya and this is Lisa. Lisa and Naya join Charlotte and Carrie for lunch. They're sorry that they're late. Lisa is wearing a Rick Owens jacket. Yes, they managed to sneak in like the only colorful piece that Rick Owens ever made into the show. And Lisa is wearing it in that scene. And she has a Louis Vuitton bag as well. Carrie's wearing a Fendi baguette, and Charlotte has a Fendi peekaboo bag. So there's a lot of Fendi going on in this episode. So apparently, Sarah Jessica Parker did a collaboration with Fendi, like kind of reissuing some of her historical ideas for the baguette or what she wore in the original Sex and the City show. And so, again, we're kind of breaking the fourth wall here, very meta, because Carrie Bradshaw is wearing a Sarah Jessica Parker for Fendi baguette. You know what I mean? A bit awkward, but there you have it in that scene. Lisa is at the table with all of them, and she receives a text message, and she just received the MILF school list. She's super giddy. She's super excited. She tells Charlotte and the girls, oh my gosh, the list arrived. Let's see this boy, this teenage male student, who did he put on the top of his MILF list? And Lisa is second on the list and Charlotte is third. on the student MILF list. Number one is some parent that I don't know. They mention who it is, but it's irrelevant to us because they're not a character that's always in the... I've never actually seen them in the show. So anyway, Charlotte and Lisa have this exchange. Charlotte says, oh, you totally deserve to be number 2. I'm so excited that I'm number 3. So they are super excited that they are number 2 and number 3 on this kids list. Very cringe. And for those people who are saying that Sex and the City or that And Just Like That is not breaking boundaries, that it's not like edgy, and that it's not like borderline, oh my gosh, the topic is iffy, you shouldn't even talk about it. People are saying, yeah, Sex and the City was so cool because it was like so borderline with their topics back in the day, but now they're playing so politically correct. Honey, this is not politically correct. Like 2 mothers being all excited that like a teenage student finds them sexy. I find that quite edgy. But so anyway. And then Naya says, oh my gosh, can we like be serious for a moment? Like, can we talk about abortion rights and like all that stuff? But then in that moment, the audio technician guy texts her, and then she becomes just as giddy and excited as the other girls. And she's like, oh my God, the mic technician wrote me. Super cute. So like all of these ladies that are like in their 40s, 50s, whatever they are, 50s, 60s, I don't even know. They're behaving like young teenage girls, and it's super cute to see them like that at lunch. It's one of those epic lunch scenes that we're so used to from Sex and the City. They're back in full force, in full swing, and they are cute to watch. We're back with Carrie in the studio recording the audiobook. So Carrie's again trying to read chapter 3. She pauses too long between paragraphs. LOL. So she reads the shower scene. Her script starts melting, like washed away by water falling on the pages. Emotional scene, melting words. It's kind of a cute special effect they did there. So you see her script on her iPad or whatever tablet. Then the camera pans in, and as she's reading about the shower scene, the words start morphing and melting, and we hear the sound of the shower, and the whole script starts kind of melting away. Very poetic, nicely done. Good post-production. Whoever did that post-production did a great job. I thought it was really beautifully done, and she's very emotional. She's in touch with her emotions. I like that scene. Carrie skips chapter 3. They all agree, listen, let's skip chapter 3. Let's do chapter 4, and then we can go back to chapter 3 later. We have enough time. Let's cover the rest of the book. We'll do the most difficult chapter last. So they go on to chapter 4. After that, Carrie walks on the street and meets Mitzi. Mitzi is from season 1. She married a guy everybody thought was gay, but Mitzi was super happy with her musical gay hobby. He also is no longer with us. So Mitzi is in a beauty salon. She screams, at Carrie through the salon, Carrie, come in. And Carrie's like, oh, hi, Mitzi. And Carrie says to Mitzi, I cried reading chapter 3. And Carrie asks Mitzi, how do you deal with the death of your husband? Mitzi says, the second year is worse than the first year because time is passing and he is missing all of what you're living through as time is passing. And you feel further and further away from him. And it is just awful. And Mitzi says, this is what they don't tell you. The second year is worse than the first year because in the second year, your life goes on and you feel like he's more and more distant because he's not there to live any of this with you. And then Carrie says, well, how do you do it? Mitzi says, some days, she feels terrible, but other days she puts herself together and she just fakes it. She says, sometimes it's just faking, sister. I'm just faking that I'm happy. Put on a smile and keep going. She says that she's studying Kabbalah, and in Kabbalah, they say that the hole never fills, but new life will grow around it. I found that so beautiful. And it's true. And I can tell you this also about my dad. My dad passed away in 2015. And this coincidentally doesn't just apply to lovers, husbands, wives, and whatever. It also applies to family members. The hole and the void that my dad left by passing away, that void is endless. It's never going to get filled. Never. But it is true that life, you're planting life all around that hole. It's so true, you guys. So your job is to do whatever you need, says Mitzi, to plant the seeds and do whatever you need to do to make yourself feel better. Mitzi says, I got a facelift. So in just like that, Carrie went shoe shopping. And so we see her walking back home with a bunch of Bergdorf Goodman shoes, bags, shopping bags. And also this scene got criticized by so many woke fashionista people saying, oh my God, who goes to Bergdorf Goodman to shop nowadays? Give her a moment. This is a historical reference to the original Sex and the City when she would have those gray bags and walk back home with them. This is an Easter egg. Let her have her freaking Bergdorf Goodman tacky shoe bags. Like, seriously, why are you criticizing this? Seriously. So, anyway, Carrie comes back home with a bunch of new shoes, and they're all over her apartment, and she's trying them all on, and the telephone rings. And it's the people from the book, the audiobook people. And they're like, when can you come in? We got to do this again, chapter 3. And then she comes up with the idea and lies to them and says, you know what, you guys, I'm really sorry. I just got COVID. I can't read the book. You're going to have to get an actress to read for me. Sorry. Bye. And just like that, she lied her way out of reading the book. Miranda is in Los Angeles. She's passing by a tattoo parlor and talks to the artist inside the tattoo parlor about how she wants to capture who she is, like her deepest, most inner self with a tattoo. Classic Miranda, though, if you think about it. And I live for that moment. And I love how she's excited even about a little teeny tiny tattoo, and how she, like a little girl, is listening to the tattoo artist and he's telling her, like, very LA, like, I totally get it. Like, you don't want the corporate life of you being a lawyer to like take over your life. You want to feel yourself again. And she's like, yeah. Oh man, thank you for understanding. It's so easy to talk to you. Thank you. And when she said that, I'm like, oh my God, this is classic Miranda. Thanking somebody for being easy to talk to. I mean, come on. It doesn't get more Miranda than that. So yeah, right. So anyway, so the artist says, she says, I want the tattoo to capture who I am. And so she ends up getting... We're going to get to what tattoo she got. She ends up getting a tattoo. It's interesting why she got what she got. You got to stay till the end. We're going to see at the end of the episode what tattoo she got. And she shows us what tattoo she got only at the end of the episode, not just yet. Carrie is in her closet while she gets a call from Miranda asking her if she should get a tattoo. Carrie warns her not to join the Church of Scientology. Miranda says, I got news. I got something to tell you, Carrie. And Carrie's like, does this mean, just don't tell me it has something to do with the Church of Scientology while you're in LA. I mean, that was hilarious. And Miranda's like, no, I want a tattoo. And then Carrie says, but sweetie, you know that most people nowadays are getting rid of tattoos and not getting tattoos. And Miranda says, no, I know. I want something symbolic. Like Carrie says, just don't put it in a place that everybody can see. So it's something intimate and yours, but don't just put it on your forehead or on your neck. Carrie says many people get tattoos removed. Miranda says it's fun in LA. I don't want to leave. Like it's a fairy tale here. Carrie tells Miranda she got COVID. She even lies to Miranda. She says, I'm not going to read the book anymore. I got COVID. And Miranda's like, oh my gosh, you got COVID. You got to take care of yourself. Finally, you got COVID. And then Miranda says something interesting. Like you managed to not get COVID throughout the entire lockdown for 3 years. And now you got it. Well, something took. And Carrie is like, again, this joke, like COVID. But she doesn't have it. She's lying to Miranda. Carrie tries on her new shoes. Charlotte calls right after Carrie puts down the phone with Miranda. Charlotte calls because Miranda let Charlotte know immediately that Carrie has COVID, right? So it's so funny how the girls all like talk behind each other's backs. Charlotte calls immediately. Charlotte is in her kitchen, completely dressed in Burberry. Y'all. Burberry, as they call it now, the abbreviation of Burberry. Burberry, Attire for the kitchen, honey. I mean, she camouflaged herself. Like, I was like, where's Charlotte in this picture? But so, anyway, Charlotte calls her and asks what to bring her, what food to take care of her. Carrie says, no, I don't have any symptoms. I'm sick, but I don't have any symptoms. So Carrie lies to Charlotte. Next scene, we have Seema looking through secondhand websites for her stolen Birkin. So Seema is crying in a fetal position, scrolling through secondhand websites, hoping that the thief is going to put her bag online. Then we have the next scene, Anthony and Seema at lunch. Again, unfortunately, they're using Anthony as the gay token with ridiculous jokes. So he says it's a crime how much food costs in New York because they're having lunch and it's like super expensive. Seema says she is sad about her stolen Birkin. Anthony talks about a sex date he had that once a guy handcuffed him to the bed, and Seema says, what's bad with that? And he said, well, he stole everything while I was handcuffed. He took everything I had and left the room. That's New York. They just take everything from you. So it's no wonder that your Birkin was snatched. Seema is like, yeah, funny, haha. How come Carrie did not join us for lunch? Carrie is never late for lunch. Cut to Carrie in Carrie's apartment. Carrie forgot about the lunch because Carrie is spending some good old me time, alone time. She needs the time to heal. She's still grieving, you guys. So Seema sends her a text message. Carrie's like, oh no, I forgot. So Carrie forgot about lunch with Seema and Anthony, and she lies to them as well that she has COVID. Cut to a scene with Charlotte and Lisa at school. MILFgate is in full swing. MILFgate, y'all. School wants to punish the boy who made the MILF list. Charlotte and Lisa and the other moms that are talking about this incident see this boy pass by. This is kind of the delicate, controversial, not politically correct scene. As if it were the only one, but it's a heavy one. This is a kid, y'all. I don't even think he's 18, right? Is he hot? They definitely cast an actor that looks more mature than what his age should be in the show. And I think they did that on purpose. To make, they show him as more mature, very edgy, jawline. He is exuding testosterone. The kid is not a kid, obviously. He looks like a grown actor, but they're kind of telling us, no, but he's a kid. But all the mothers in their 40s, 50s, they see him pass by and they're like horny for him. So, and they're discussing this and while saying to the other mothers, there should not be actions taken. He should not be punished after all. He's just a kid. They're just super happy that they made the list, basically. And so Lisa, at the end of that scene, as the boy turns around the corner and he leaves, cut to Lisa Wexley saying, why do I feel all of a sudden like Blanche Dubois from A Streetcar Named Desire? Loved the Tennessee Williams reference. Principal, now we cut to the principal room. Principal wants a harsh punishment, but Charlotte and Lisa stand up and defend the boy. The other moms laugh and say, you two are defending him just because you made it to spot 2 and 3 on the list. Charlotte and Lisa act like they have no clue what's going on. They're like, oh, did we make the list? We didn't know. Then the principal says, another shocker, MILFgate. A student has reported, or somebody has reported, that mothers were heard in the corridors of the school hallway objectifying a student. And then again, Charlotte and Lisa look at each other and then yell out loud, were they objectifying a student? Oh, we had no clue. Comedic relief. Cut to Miranda waiting in line at Warner Studios for the taping of Che Pasa. As she's waiting in line to enter the studios where Che is about to film an episode of Che Pasa with Tony Danza, Brady, this is Anthony, by the way. This is Brady. He is Miranda's son. Brady calls from Amsterdam. He went there with his girlfriend. at the end of season 1. He's in tears. He calls his mom. There's this whole shtick about this telephone not working because, as we know, Miranda lost her phone on the beach, cleaning up the beach in episode 2. So episode 3 begins with her having a new phone. It's a Samsung or something, and they're throwing shade at the Samsung not working well. Whenever she receives a phone call, it doesn't ring when it's supposed to ring. So there's this whole running gag about the phone not working. But of course, the phone, because it is a running gag, the phone only works when it's not supposed to work. So, of course, she's standing in line to get to see Che Pasa, the taping of the show. Brady calls in tears. His girlfriend, Luisa, broke up with him. Miranda asks, and here we have finally a mention of Steve. Miranda asks, have you spoken to your dad? He says yes, but he wants to talk to his mom. Miranda hides the phone from the security guard and sneaks it into the studio. Now, the security guards, and I've been to the taping of several shows in Hollywood, one of them being Hot in Cleveland, while one of the loves of my life, Betty White, was still with us. And I saw Betty White film that episode with the Pope. Oh my God, that was hilarious. So anyway, I know how it goes because coincidentally, I also went to the filming of Two Broke Girls. Guess who the showrunner for Two Broke Girls was? Michael Patrick King, the same guy who's doing it just like that. And I saw Michael Patrick King at work, rewriting the script, for Two Broke Girls, doing everything, running from the camera, controlling. It was very fascinating to see. It was the episode where also Sandra Bernard was in it. I love Sandra Bernard. So I was sitting at this corner of the audience, and on that side, I didn't know what they were going to shoot that day. Obviously, you don't know. You're entering and you don't know what's going to happen. But on that side, Sandra Bernard had her scene in her beauty parlor or hair salon. I made eye contact with Sandra. Woo! Okay, so she had her scene and there was a little break. They had to rewrite something. She was standing there waiting for her cue. I turned to her. I looked at her and I was like, I said, I love you. And she said, it was such a moment. Oh my God, I love Sandra. Anyway, we digress. So anyway, I know how this goes. You have to get rid of your phone. You got to put these phones in these little bags. They give you the phone later. You're not allowed to have a phone. It's all highly confidential. You can't film anything during the taping. You can't use your phone during the taping. But Miranda, because she's scared that something's going to happen to Brady, she hides the phone and manages to sneak it into the recording of Che Pasa. And that phone, they've already set up the whole scene for that phone to malfunction. That phone is going to go off while they're filming the scene. They've set it all up for us. Now we cut to Carrie at home with a face mask, chilling all alone. Her publicist calls to tell her she got an extra week to record the audiobook. They're like, Carrie, we know you're sick, so we managed to get in an extra week for you to film the audiobook once you feel better. And she's like with her sad facial mask, being like, oh, really? She really didn't want to do it. She's like, well, if I feel any better. So she really is sad, doesn't want to film that book. Then we're back to the Warner Brothers studios with Tony Danza filming the little cannoli scene. Miranda's in the audience watching. And Tony's like, you want to have bang, the big boy haircut thing, and that joke ridiculous. The writer of the show feels the emotions more than Che does, and that, because then the camera pans to show us that the showrunner knows all this script by heart because it's more about them than about Che. Very interesting commentary about that in the show itself. In that moment, Miranda's phone rings. Of course, at the most pivotal moment and most emotional moment of the show, where the showrunner is getting teary-eyed about this, gender non-conforming topic, Miranda's phone rings and she ruins the moment. She ruins the emotional take. Tony Danza says, no, it's okay. Everybody can make mistakes. Tony Danza is trying to, I guess, recoup from the bad image that he gave us in episode 2. Go check out my review of episode 2 to find out what bad image he gave us there. This time he's kind of fixing that bad image by, kind of standing up for Miranda and saying, come on, guys, it's okay. Everybody can make a mistake. We can redo the scene. But then something really nasty happens, which again, I think is setting up the whole scenario for Che to get fired, for this entire show to not work, or for Che to quit and leave, because the showrunner with the blue hair really gets aggressive and yells at Miranda, says, "You ruined this take." And Tony Danza says, "We can shoot it again." And then the showrunner says, "We can't shoot it again because Che is not an actor. Che's just a stand-up comedian and will never be able to recapture the emotional moment again." And I was like, that is so rude. How dare you scream that out loud in front of a live audience? How unprofessional and rude. Disgusting. So yeah. And then there's the recap guy in the audience trying to cheer up the audience, say, "Hey, Che is now doing this. She is then going to do that. She's then going to do that." He keeps saying she to Che, right? The showrunner then gets hysterical, says, they, like really aggressively. So it's an interesting, again, commentary on how maybe the conversation should be a little bit more lighthearted and educating people about gender fluidity should be maybe a little bit less aggressive and a little bit more, give a person a little bit more time. I mean, this poor dude, he probably spent his entire life just saying he and she. You can't just readjust like that. You need some time. And that's okay too. Don't be so angry at people, right? So anyway, Miranda calls Charlotte in tears, scared. Like Che's going to hate her now because she ruined Che's take and so on and so forth. Cut to scene with Seema. Seema visits Carrie with food. Carrie opens the door, but before opening the door, you know how Sarah Jessica Parker always tries to do comedy, right? So she's doing the coughing as the doors close, like to show to Seema, "Look, I'm really sick." She opens the door. Seema has a leopard mask on, and Carrie has a mask on that says "Oy vey." And Seema's looking at her. She brought her food. She says, "Oy vey." And Carrie looks at Seema and says, "Yeah, I don't have COVID. I lied. I'm sorry." And Seema says, "Oh, thank goodness, because this mask that I'm wearing with the leopard print, as chic as it is, it doesn't conform to the regulations at all. It's just cute, but it won't protect." And I love that they commented on that as well, because during the major lockdown, so many people were wearing these phony ass masks that had like fashion stuff on them, but they had absolutely no filters on them. Like all the breath would pass right through them. That was hilarious that they acknowledged that in that scene. Seema says it's okay for Carrie to be alone at home, to feel the feels as long as she needed to feel the feels. And then she said, Seema says, "I was in a fetal position over a lost Birkin." And Carrie's like, "We're not here like comparing our losses, like Mr. Big and a Birkin." "Oh yeah, we are, I guess." And they kind of had this kind of bonding moment. They understood each other. That was kind of cute. Lisette writes Carrie in that moment about the jewelry event. "Hey, come. Are you coming, Carrie, to the jewelry event?" Seema says, "Are you going? You have to stay home, right?" And she's like, No, I have to go to Lisette's jewelry Bulgari event, and you're coming with me." Seema is Carrie's +1. Back to Los Angeles, Che leaves the studio and Miranda waits outside. They fight. Miranda says to Che, "I got to go to New York. Brady..." She uses the S word, is S. So she's afraid that he might unalive himself. So, but the thing is, she's exaggerating there, and then Che says, "Is he really? Are you exaggerating?" She's like, no, he's going to be fine, but he really needs me right now. He's crying. He's flying back from the Netherlands to New York, and I want to be there for him when he flies in. And Che is a little bit too egotistic in this moment, very angry. But we see something here. We see that Che needs Miranda. As egotistical as Che is, Che gives us the signals that they need Miranda there. Che says to Miranda, "Don't go." And is really upset when Miranda says, I need to go. So Che feels abandoned and alone in that moment. And you can feel how they feel very fragile and vulnerable, that their support mechanism and support system, which is Miranda, is about to leave. So there's bickering and a fight going on there. Miranda says something really cute. She says at the end of their speech, she says, Please let's not leave on a yucky note like that. And Che says, okay, we're not going to do that. But says, you ruined my family scene. And then Miranda says, but this is a real family scene happening right now. I'm not filming this. This is my son. And this is a real family scene happening here. I have to go back to New York. So Che tries to make her change her mind about leaving LA and about leaving them. So we see that Che needs her for real, but Miranda leaves anyway because Brady is more important to Miranda than Che. It's her son after all. Che has to go back to makeup touch-ups. Che is angry. Miranda says the show is going to be a huge success. It's going to be huge. But Che laughs at that. And again, they're planting these seeds to tell us that this show is not going to happen. Because when Miranda says the show is going to be huge, Che is like, sure. Does not believe it themselves. Cut to Carrie and Seema at Lisette's jewelry presentation. Bellini cocktail is bad, Seema says. Seema also notices that one of the caterers, or somebody who appears to be a caterer, is a thief and is stealing all the jewelry from Lisette and Bulgari, putting it in his pockets. Then he goes to Seema and Carrie and tells them, give me all your jewelry, your necklaces, all your jewelry. He's not pointing a gun at them. He's just saying, give it all to me. Lisette notices what's going on and she sounds the alarm, but nobody seems to care and the security is not there. And this is, again, the running gag of the entire episode, COVID. This made me laugh out loud. There's this chaos, Lisette is screaming, he's stealing my jewelry. Where's the security? Where's the security? The guy wants Carrie's jewelry. Carrie screams out, I got COVID. That's her weapon. Carrie screams, I got COVID. And then, only then, because when Lisette screamed, thief, thief, nobody cared. But when Carrie screamed, I have COVID, everybody started running. The masses screamed, ran like chickens out of that place. It was hysterical. Old school Sex in the City vibes, those stupid jokes that they would do that are just so dumb that they're delicious. So anyway, Carrie screams, I got COVID. Everybody starts running out. A super comedic timing there. Gotta hand it to Sarah Jessica Parker. She's a great comedian when she wants to. So the thief tells Carrie to give him her iconic Carrie necklace nameplate. She has a Carrie nameplate. I have a fly. I have a shit fly on mine from courtesy of Vivian Westwood. But anyway, so, he's like, give me your necklace. She's like, no, please, not my name. My nameplate is so important to me. And of course, she's telling this also as an Easter egg for us. We know how important that nameplate is to her. And we're like, no, don't steal Carrie's nameplate. At this point, Seema draws a golden gun. Yes, a golden gun out of her purse. And she points it at the guy. The guy screams and he runs away because he doesn't have a weapon. Carrie's like, you have a gun? Seema lifts the gun, lights it up. It's a lighter. It's a lighter, you guys. It's a golden gun lighter. And this is building up for the next comedic moment, because the pun is always best when there's another pun on top. But first, Lisette is shocked that all her jewelry is gone as security finally arrives. And she's like, where were you guys? Where were you guys? Security sees Seema light a cigarette with that gun. And finally, the security that's good for nothing, they tell her, Miss, you cannot smoke in here. Seema looks at them and says, yeah, like I'm the problem? Pun landed. Pun landed. Miranda is back in New York. She's waiting for Brady. She's back in her home in New York. She's waiting for Brady to arrive. And she has a Band-Aid right here. She pulls off the Band-Aid. Here we see what the tattoo is. She has a tattoo right there. The tattoo are two letters. M-H. Miranda Hobbs. Now, this is what I'm thinking. If she decided to tattoo the H on her arm, and she had the whole conversation at the beginning of the episode saying, no, I want something that really is me, to remind me of who I am, so that I never forget again. She tattooed Steve on her arm. That's his surname. She is Miranda Hobbs, and she's reminding herself of that. So, we know Cynthia Nixon is lesbian in real life, right? Or so she said. So probably she being an executive producer, she's pushing for Miranda remaining lesbian but the fact that Miranda is tattooing the H on her arm, to me, is like opening the doorway to saying Steve will be back. I'm still rooting for Steve, justice for Steve. So I'm saying Miranda having the MH tattooed on her wrist, on her inner wrist, makes me kind of feel like, oh, there's still hope for Steve and Miranda. Brady enters, he arrives crying, she hugs him, and Mama says it's all going to be okay. Cut to Seema, stuck in traffic too long, and then she tells the driver, you know what, I'm almost home anyway, it's just a block or two. It's going to take longer if we wait in traffic, so I'll just step out of the car, I'll walk home. And she does that, and then she's like annoyed. She says, oh, this city with the traffic. She walks down the street and she sees a lady walking a really cute dog, a Pomeranian dog. So she kind of bends down to caress the dog, pet the dog a little bit. And as she's on the street floor, she looks into the shrubs beside her and she sees her Birkin bag laying in the bushes. The thief took all the money out of the bag and tossed the bag aside. She picks up the bag and hugs it. Oh, those little New York miracles. And they do happen from time to time. I thought to myself in that moment, of course he threw the Birkin to the side. He knew it was fake. But then I was reading up an article where they interviewed one of the stylists for the show. Not the lady, but the guy. And he said that actually a friend of his borrowed the authentic Birkin for the show, and they kept the Birkin under locks all the time, but that they also had replica Birkins as stand-in Birkins for like more aggressive shots. And I'm like, girl, it's like you're literally, first of all, just because you borrowed it from a friend doesn't prove to me that that Birkin was authentic. And second of all, when you're telling me that you also had fakes for like special shots because you didn't want to damage the real Birkin, then you might have just shot all the shots with the fake Birkin. So I'm still not really sure if that Birkin was there. We'll go. You know what I mean? But let's give them the benefit of the doubt. So she found it. And Debbie in the chat says someone would have seen the bag before she found it. Right? Yeah, right? I'm also thinking because the bushes are green, the bag is like this golden color, it's very visible, but maybe it looked squished like garbage, so maybe that's why they did what they did. I don't know. Anyway, the stunt Birkin. Yes, the stunt Birkin, Carrie. So anyway, she gets her Birkin lying in the bush. Cut to Carrie. She has the key to Lisette's apartment. The deal was I can use the key only for emergencies. She's knocking on Lisette's door. Lisette is not opening. So Carrie is bringing chocolates and sweets. She opens the door. Lisette is crying in bed. She's just really miserable. Carrie kind of comes into the bed, says, can I come and join you? And Lisette says, yeah. She's like, look, I brought you some sweets. And she said, you know, sooner or later, we're going to have to get out of this bed, but not today. They're both kind of living the same. You see, Lisette as a character is always mirroring what is happening to Carrie. You see, Carrie is miserable and needs to be alone and mourn the loss of Big. So Lisette mirrors that, and she's in bed, needs to be alone and mourn the loss of her jewelry. So we have this happening a lot with Lisette and Carrie, which is kind of sad because I would wish that they would give Lisette a little bit more of an independence as a character instead of kind of utilizing her as a little add-on emotional bonus for Carrie's character. But anyway, Carrie lays in bed next to Lisette, you know, saying like, you know, sooner or later we're going to have to get out of bed and face life again, but not today. Today we can just rest and be sad and binge on cookies and chocolate. Cut to the scene where Carrie is back in the recording studio, and she finally manages to finish chapter 3. She finishes reading chapter 3. Done, done, done. She finally did it. They're all applauding her. They're all very proud of her. She finally did it. She's happy she did it. Now we cut to dinner. We are at dinner with Seema and Carrie as they toast to New York City. The good and the bad, says Carrie. And then at their communal table, which Seema does not like a communal table at dinner. She wants to have her own private table. But coincidentally, at their communal table, there is the entire Sydney rugby team of these kind of hunky dudes with the down under accent. And they're horny for Seema and Carrie. So the boys then move in closer to the girls and offer to buy them drinks and ask what sights they should see in New York. Seema is, of course, with her Birkin. The Birkin is between her and the guys. She lifts her Birkin to put it on this side so that the guys can come in closer to her and closer to Carrie. And then finally we get the payoff for this entire buildup of the COVID situation. You know how Carrie ends every episode of And Just Like That by saying, and just like that, something, something. Well, she got to spend those 2 days that the Sydney rugby players are going to be in New York. So I guess something went down with the rugby players. And as the camera is panning away from the restaurant, we hear Carrie off screen saying, and just like that, I got COVID. Super hilarious. I'm envisioning her getting COVID from the rugby players from Australia. And that is hilarious. So I guess the end of the episode 4 is probably going to be Carrie really sick. You know what I mean? Because she really got it. And then kind of getting better from that. Or they're going to begin the episode saying, oh, and finally, after 3 weeks of having COVID, I'm feeling better again. And then life goes on. Yeah, Tyler, I agree. Tyler says more Lisette content would be everything. Yes, I think Lisette should be given more her own character. So, yeah, just saying. Oh, you guys, I made a big mistake. Oh, thanks for letting me know. Yeah, Kev and Tyler. Kev says, wait, hold on a minute. Hobbs is Miranda's surname. She kept her surname. It's not Steve's last name. Steve's last name is Brady. No, Brady is her son, y'all. Steve's last name is not Brady. What is her son is called Brady Brady? Brady Brady? Or did Steve take Miranda's last name? Brady Hobbs. Right, yeah, Brady Hobbs. Thank you, Nectarine Man. Yes, it's Brady Hobbs. Okay, thank you. So, his name is Brady Hobbs. So, did Brady take his mother's last name or did Brady take Steve's last name? Kev says Brady took Miranda's last name? Okay, the T-Pal says the son has 2 last names? Yes, Steve is Steve Brady. Melissa, you gots to be kidding me. Wait, is the son Brody Brady or Brady Brady? Brady took the first name of Steve and the last name of Miranda. Steve's last name is Brady. Thank you, guys. So, oh my gosh, that is... Okay, well, oopsie. My apologies. Well, first of all, that means that my whole theory and hope for Steve to be back is just... Now, you've killed my thin hope. Because that tattoo doesn't mean anymore that she might be coming back with Steve because Hobbs is her surname. Oh my God, I already see the people coming for me in the comment section. You don't know what you're talking about. All right, well, thank God we corrected this. So, aw, that's so sad. So she tattooed her own surname? I don't know what to think about that. Because if she tattooed her own surname, like I get it, it's poetic. It's like, don't forget who you are. That's really who she is. But then she didn't even want to take Steve's surname, like you said. Brady Hobbs. Miranda named the baby Brady for Steve's sake so he wouldn't feel left out. I do hope we see Steve soon again, though, says Bible-believing Christian. Sarah says that's very Miranda. Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I missed out on that one. Oh, I was so hopeful when I saw the surname and I thought it was Steve's surname. But it's just like Miranda being Miranda, right? So I guess we're not going to see Steve back in her life anytime soon. He's probably going to appear in episode 4 because he's going to want to talk to Brady about like what happened, I guess, because he cares for his son as well. Like, unless that is not over for them, like for the showrunners, and they think like, yeah, we don't need to go deeper into, like, it almost feels like the showrun depends on what happens in episode 4, right? But as of now, to me, it feels like the showrunners used the whole excuse of Brady breaking up with Louisa because there was no other better way for the writers to get Miranda back to New York. They didn't want to get Miranda back to New York because the relationship wasn't working with Che. They needed something stronger than Che to get Miranda back to New York. What is stronger than Che? Miranda's son. Steve was not strong enough. Miranda left Steve for Che. So the only thing stronger than Che is Miranda's son. So the writers used Miranda's son to get her back to, you know what I mean? I don't think this is a plot line that's going to develop into something deeper for Brady. I think that plot line of him being abandoned by his girlfriend was just used so that they can get Miranda back to New York. Pity, because I was hoping that that tattoo was going to tell us something about her. Yeah, okay, whatever. Well, my apologies, you guys. Sorry, I got that completely wrong. Talk about reading the room wrongly. So I guess Miranda is just into herself after all. And just like that, that tattoo was very egotistical. Zara says, I didn't like Che not supporting Miranda in that parenting moment. Yeah, I found that also really bad. Like, Che was so egotistical in that moment, and it took them really, like, they had to pull themselves together to kind of be respectful towards Miranda, at least a little bit. And Miranda, being super scared for her son, she still managed to recollect herself and tell Che, hey, can we please not leave on such a yucky note? And then Che pulls themselves together and says, yeah, okay. And I'm like, wow, Miranda had to pull herself together after her son is having a nervous breakdown and scared her, and Che didn't care? I also thought that was really terrible. Yeah, that was a bad moment. Lisette needs to have more screen time and needs to the writers have to finally detach Lisette as being just the shadow of Carrie. It's really annoying. But the dynamic between the girls is kind of coming into place. The new girls with the old girls. It's moving. I'm still hoping that Dr. Naya gets a little bit more substantial screen time, but I think the problem with Naya is that they built her up as Miranda's friend in season 1. And since season 2, Miranda is in LA, Naya doesn't really have a person to relate to. In fact, we see all the major scenes of Naya are on the phone with Miranda. Pardon me. Or on the phone with her husband. But now that Miranda is back in New York, they're probably going to give Naya more screen time because she's interacting with Miranda. And I think then Miranda is going to talk to Naya about how the relationship with Che is a little bit shaky. And Naya is going to talk, obviously, about her marriage falling apart. So I think Naya might have a little bit more substantial presence now that Miranda's back in New York. But again, you see, like, these characters all still have their presence justified by the original 3 characters, Carrie, Miranda, and Charlotte. They're still a little bit wobbly on their own feet. The only one of the 3 new characters, and by the 3 new characters, I mean Seema, Naya, and Lisa, and the only one of the 3 that is getting more their independent screen time is Seema. Seema is the only one that is managing to build up her own presence in this new Sex and the City. You know what I mean? Independently, she doesn't really need Carrie or anybody else. I also, to be honest with you, I'm not particularly feeling the chemistry between the 2 actresses. She's super kind and polite to her. That's all good and fine, but I'm not feeling the chemistry between them. So in season 1, them two met, them two are the friends, and then Seema meets the other ones. But Seema really has her own strength. Seema is great. She has a power on her own on screen. She works. Seema just works. She fits into this world of Sex and the City perfectly well, honestly. And she doesn't feel like Samantha at all. She's her own character. And I've said this in my last video. She's definitely her own character and she totally fits in. But these other two ladies, we still gotta work to kind of integrate them into the show properly so that they have their own existence that doesn't need to be justified by their counterparts, Charlotte being counterpart for Lisa and Miranda being counterpart for Naya. Che is also existing only thanks to Miranda, but the second they break up, Che is gone. So I'm also enjoying the fact that Anthony is becoming more and more friends with Seema, even though Anthony is originally Charlotte's friend. So that is working as well for me. They have good chemistry, Anthony and Seema, I believe. Don B says, I'd watch the heck out of the Seema spinoff. The Nectarine Man says, but Seema is the better character. The Nectarine Man says, Lisa and Charlotte have the best chemistry of the new actors. Joining the old ones, you mean? So we're talking Lisa and Charlotte. Yeah, they're both funny and comedic. They're ditzy and funny. I'm not so sure if the chemistry is so good. And let me tell you why. Lisa is trying to behave a little bit like Charlotte when she's around Charlotte. But she behaves differently when she's with her hubby. I don't know. She feels also a little bit like a mirror image of Charlotte. And I think that's a pity. She doesn't need to be. She should be different. They should give her more her own independent character traits somehow. You know what I mean? But there's time for that. I mean, I'm sure they're going to develop it further. I have good hopes for Lisa. For Naya, let's see. She had very little screen time. Very little screen time thus far. So let's see if they manage to get her more into the show. But thus far of the new three ladies, Seema is winning. Like on all ends. Seema is collecting points everywhere. You know. Oh, Zara Justina says, did you guys notice Seema's car's license plate? It says Seema NYC. Love it. Oh my gosh. Didn't they show that already in season 1? I think I remember that from season 1, and it is major boss energy. Major boss energy. I haven't watched it just like that after season 1, but your commentary makes me want to pick it up again, says SL Chan. Oh, thank you so much. It's a cute show, you guys, and it's warm. And yes, it's ditzy and it's full of weird stuff, but it kind of brings back good memories. And I don't know, it's a comfortable spot to be in to watch the show. I watch it with a smile on my face, like I really do. I don't expect this show to change my life. I don't expect this, and truth be told, it's quite hard for them to pick up a show that was like riding that wave of the 90s and the noughties. The politics and culture back then, very different to today. Plus the ladies have aged. So it's like, how do you adjust it to today's standards and today's times? It's not easy, but I think they're doing a great job at adapting it and making it more clumsily fitted into today's times. And I love seeing it. It just makes me feel some type of way, makes me feel happy to watch it. So I don't really care if the writing is sometimes cringe, if, there's some ditzy moments. Like I said, I have more cringe moments throughout the day than they do in one episode. So we'll go. You know what I mean? We're good to go. I'm fine. I'm like, he who hath not sinned casteth the first stone. You know what I mean? Don't sit here and judge the cringy writing when you know very well that the cringe lives in you. And the cringe lives in all of us. May the cringe be with you. And with that, I say, we'll go. I hope you've enjoyed this recap. Again, my deepest and sincerest apologies for mistaking Miranda's surname for Steve's surname and hoping that Steve will be back. Sorry, errata corrige, as we say in the publishing business. Let's correct that. So my apologies for that, but I do hope that despite the error, you have still enjoyed this recap and that you're going to tune in together with me next week as we embark on another journey and review together. And just like that, Season 2, Episode 4. And as for this week, I'ma say, and just like that, we're one episode closer to Samantha Jones / Kim Cattrall's cameo appearance. Whoop whoop! Love you loads. Thumb up this video if you liked it. Subscribe to my channel and see you in the next one. Bye.